It's my pleasure to introduce our last speaker, Mr. Zhong. He is the founder and director of Green Camel Bell, a grassworks environmental NGO in Northwest China. He and his colleagues conduct a range of programs and projects focusing on environmental education, water pollution monitoring, eco-agriculture, and grassland conservation. In 2009, Mr. Zhong was named a Hero of the Environment by Time magazine. In 2015 and 16, he was a U.S. State Department Humphrey Fellow right here at UC Davis, and so it's a pleasure to welcome him back. Mr. Zhong.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for the introduction and the invitation. I'm always the last one because both my first name and the second name are started with Z. As introduction, I was the Humphrey Fellow from 2015 to 16, and during the Humphrey year, I took a one-year study here at UC Davis and attended the first symposium of Global Tea Initiative. So glad to be back. So those who prefer tea may have the question, what's the best tea? The most expensive one, the most precious one, the most famous one. 20 years ago, I was told the best tea is the tea picked by young girls. Each tea leaf should be kissed by girls' lips. I even believed it for a while. This rumor must be made by some man. So no matter what the best tea is, people means a lot to tea. It's people who give tea life and vigor. It's people who give tea heart and soul. So today, my topic will be tea and people, inclusive and sustainable development for small tea farmers. According to the definition by Chinese research, those based on the family unit and the individual ownership of means of production operate small-scale agriculture independently for their own consumption need are small farmers. And the USDA defines those small farms by the gross annual income less than $250,000 per year. My talk will start with a small tea farmer, Miss Su's story, and then explain why we should care about small tea farmer and what the challenges they are facing too. At the end, I will propose some bottom-up solution based on my practical experience. Miss Su is 15-something. We usually call her Su Dajie. In Chinese, Dajie means big sister, an affectionate call to elder women. I have known Miss Su for 10 years. She and her family are living on tea. She is a proficient tea farmer, especially for tea picking. Miss Su, in addition to farming, Miss Su ran a small grocery store in the village to earn some extra cash. She has 2 sons, neither of whom don't have a chance to go to college. They are working in eastern cities, just like a migrant bird only return home during the Chinese New Year. Despite life is very tough, Ms. Su actively participated in community public affairs, such as construction of a primary school and road. He actually plays a role of women leader in the communities with enthusiasm, with passion, responsibility, foresight, and leadership. 1 year before, Ms. Su had her first grandchildren, At the same time, more economical pressures. But the income from grocery was lower and lower because more and more villagers are moving out. So last summer, after the spring harvest season, Miss Su and her husband just moved to the city. They rent the storefront to sell slack in the town, in the county town. But you know, it's very difficult for them to do the business with limited experience and limited money. She is anxious and fearful about her future. Actually, Ms. Su's situation may happen to tens of thousands of small tea farmers in China. If you put Chayuan village in online map, you can find hundreds of results. Ms. Su's hometown is one of them. In Chinese, Chayuan means tea garden, which shows its historical connection with tea. So today, my talk will focus on Chayuan village of Ms. Su's hometown. Just here, the south of Gansu province, bordering with Shanxi and Sichuan province. This mountain village is comprised by 150 families with a population of 508, planting 280 acres tea trees. In 2017, the average annual household income from tea is $3,100. Chayuan village is inside the Giant Panda Nature Reserve with a high vegetation coverage and abundant fauna and flora. But unfortunately, the village is also located in the disaster-prone area, suffering from earthquake, flood, and landslide. Actually, what brought us to Chayuan village is the Wenchuan enormous earthquake in 2008, about 10 years ago. So here I'd like to express my gratitude to Global Tea Initiative for choosing this picture as the background of symposium poster. This landscape may be not as beautiful as the last photo. But you know, this photo with the blue emergency tent was a witness to the disaster history and a witness to tea farmers' tough enough. So why should we care about small tea farmers? In China, every pupil can recite an ancient poetry called Mingnong, sympathy to peasants, 谁知盘中餐，粒粒皆辛苦, which educate kids to cherish food because each grain is hard-earned. It's the same for tea. 品茶常含感恩茶农之心. When we are tasting tea, we should be gratitude to tea farmers, especially those small tea farmers. Comparing with industrialized, large-scale tea farmers, small tea farmers are easily influenced by market fluctuation and climate change. Each piece of handmade tea is animated, also contains a story of tea farmers. Some experienced taster can figure out the difference and prefer to handmade tea in favor of its special and natural flavor. The thing may not be noticeable is that small tea farmers put more time, more sweat and heart into tea. For us, tea is some kind of beverage, is pleasure, is enjoyment. Whereas for small tea farmers, tea is their whole livelihood, their only source of income, their life. Every spring, from later March to May, is the busiest season for tea farmers. From sunrise to sunset, they spend more than 10 hours in the field to pick tea. finding out the most tender bud, dipping off slightly, and putting into the basket, and then the legs. The most skilled tea farmer can only pick 1.1 pound fresh tea per day, which will bring them about $18 income. Some tea farmers learned how to fry tea and purchase tea fry pans and earn a bit more. But you see, the price is still very low, only $180 per kilogram. So, however, fry tea is a lot easy work either. Farmers fry tea quickly in the pan with their hands. For better control the quality, tea farmers use hands to sense the subtle change in temperature, which reaches to 120 degrees Celsius, around 250 Fahrenheit. The price is full of blister in their hands. After tea frying, it's not the end. Selling tea is a more tough task for small tea farmers. Due to lack of convenient transportation information, villagers of Chayuan mainly sell their tea in local market of township. Sometimes they couldn't sell 1 pound tea for a whole day. In 2017, 208 acres tea garden in Chayuan village produced about 5,500 pounds dry tea. The average for each family is only about 36 pounds, which brought $470,000 income for the whole village. And for each farmer, it's only $940. By contrast, in Zhejiang province, a developed coast province, a farmer can earn 4 times more in 2017. So to care about tea farmers is not only to show our sympathy to their hard work and tough life, but also some kind of compensation for their contribution to nature conservation. From 2000, Chayuan village has retained 1,300 mu, it's about 210 acres farmland to tea trees, to comply with retaining farmland to forest policy and conserve soil and water. The industry, such like mining, is totally forbidden in Chayuan since it's inside the nature reserve. So there are reasons why tea is the only income resource there. Thanks to the conservation by villagers and the tea trees, the ecological system is protected very well. Because our organization did a lot about water pollution, we understand it's so difficult to find out clear rivers, which are drinkable, swimmable, fishable nowadays in China. The environment of Chayuan should be cherishable and protected well for us and also for our future generations. Now you can understand why we, environmental NGO, are working with those tea farmers in this tea garden village. So can you guess what's this brown stuff? What's that? It's called youku, oil ache, the agricultural residue from rapeseed after oil screening. For hundreds of years, small tea farmers are using this organic fertilizer for tea trees with minimal environmental impact. The region of Chayuan has a long history of tea plantation since the Chinese Three Kingdom period, 1800 years ago. This one is the oldest tree in Chayuan village now, more than 100 years old. In addition to nature conservation, tea farmers keep the essence of history and preserve the culture and the tradition of tea. Only by protecting and inheriting history of tea can we better master tea culture, understand tea culture, and develop a tea business for future. So by the way, now the main species of tea in Chayuan village were Nongjing, imported from Zhejiang province. If Professor Han or other experts can help with research the difference between native and imported species, that might be very important. I just see Mr. Han, Professor Han entering. Yeah. So that's why it's the oldest tea tree in our village. So we want to know the difference between the native species and the imported Nongjing species. Okay, I will talk to you later. Thank you, Professor Han. I will take most advantage of this location. Okay, the tea farmers has their own stories, own understanding to tea, and own way to treat tea. All those can be significant component of tea culture. So whether or not you know this before, now we all have agreed that we should care about small tea farmers. So next question should be, what is the challenge for small tea farmers? I still use the example of Chayuan village. First is the labor insufficiency. Except for Chinese New Year and the spring harvesting season, the majority of villagers are working outside in cities, like family of Mr. Su. No more than 1/3 stay at home throughout the year, most of whom are adults and kids. Villagers said if with more laborers, they could harvest more tea. To hire somebody else is totally unaffordable for them. Product efficiency is another challenge. Although some tea consumers prefer to handmade tea, the machine-made and the handmade tea have the same price in local market. So no doubt, use a machine will earn more. The village in China are now lack of motivation to harvest the summer and fall tea for many reasons, including lower price, labor shortage, selling, process technology, etc. Meanwhile, for state villagers, there are no alternative livelihood other than tea farming. Of course, marketing is the major challenge for this villager. Lastly, the disaster. In 2008, the earthquake brought us to Chayuan village, and that earthquake happened to 5 people deaths in the Chayuan village. So after that, we witnessed many big and small disasters which villager is suffering from, including aftershock, the flood, the landslide. 5 years after the earthquake in 2013, when the infrastructure reconstruction has been completed, a sudden flood destroyed the road, bridge, the river banks again. So I still remember clearly the 1 week after the earthquake in 2008, when we interviewed with this old man, he sat in front of his collapsed house, tearfully and hopelessly. So this is our driving force to return back China over and over again and make a long-term commitment to the community. So we have analyzed the small tea farmers' challenges of labor, marketing, production efficiency, diversity, and disaster. The consequence is farmer can only get a low income from tea, as well as environmental degradation if they attempt to overuse pesticide, herbicide, fertilizer to reduce labor, if they can afford that. Following on that, voting by their fate, farmers are migranting away cities seasonally or permanently, which is worsening the labor shortage. So we can say a vicious circle has been made. So the final result might be the disappearance of tea garden village, small tea farmers, their history, their culture, maybe more. Addition to a media report from 2002 to 2012, each day, 80 villagers disappeared in China, each day. However, the trend can be slowed down or even reversed by outside effort. Next, I will share some bottom-up solutions. Some of them have been done, some are still in the process of plan. When we helped the villager to rebuild their house, we also proposed the other two objectives, which are social reconstruction and economical reconstruction. The final goal is to achieve inclusive and sustainable development in Chaoyuan village. What we have done, each small tea farmer is weak and vulnerable to market and climate. If dispersed, the farmer can be united and work together, they will be more powerful. So we introduce the mechanism and outlook of cooperative and encourage villagers to establish their own organization, focusing on ecological tea farming. We invite some local experts and give villagers some technical training on field management and tea processing. We hope in future, experts from Zhejiang, from Taiwan, India, Japan, California can also visit this village and share your experience. And we do care about the gender issues, so you can see there are also some female participants in our training and activities. For many farmers, to see is to believe. So we organize the study to promote the exchange between tea farmers from different villages. We do believe economic development and cultural activities will illuminate each other. The performance here not only brought joy to villagers, but also encourage communities' participation and enhance communities' cohesion, which set up the basis of farmers' cooperation. Children are the new generation who will determine the future of Chaoyuan village. So during the volunteer teaching, we let kids to observe surrounding nature and learn their culture from parents. We hope that the children will be more proud of their hometown. In future, even after their graduation from colleges, they may return back hometown, which then with the knowledge and wide vision that should be the hope for the Chaoyuan village. We also took a participatory discussion with the villagers, drew a community map highlighting all potential risk points, and made a community-based disaster prevention plan. To solve the selling barrier, we encourage a disabled farmer to open an online shop to sell tea and other products, just like this one. You can see it's a very simple packaging, made by paper and bamboo. Yeah, so yeah, very easy packing for environment, and everything is handmade. So if you want to know more on the taste, and yeah, after the presentation we can do that. And we, although the online selling is very competitive because many areas in China are planting tea, and currently the sale is not satisfied. We hope in future more and more consumers will purchase the tea from recognition of tea farmers' persistence, hard work, and conservation. 1 month later, this year's new tea will be on the market. So if you always drinking tea which you don't know who pick it, who make it, please do consider the green tea from Chaoyuan village. Another solution we are planning is to develop alternative livelihood of ecotourism. because when more and more tourists go to this village, the villager, the tea farmer can also earn some money by providing accommodation, by providing food. So in the Chayuan village, tourists can deeply experience the lifestyle of tea farmers. Tourists can pick tea in the field, learn how to fry tea, and taste the tea made by themselves. Of course, it's not an easy work, especially for those short-sighted like me. But good back exercise. So in addition, tourists can take tea ceremony together with other activities such as meditation, dancing, music playing, everything. A tea pavilion has already been built in the village with our efforts. Moreover, tourists can take one-day hiking in the primary forest to enjoy the landscape, to look for water source, to watch birds, to track wildlife. It's definitely not a giant panda guaranteed to see trip. But who knows the surprise may encounter. So in the end, I'd like to share as an NGO our role in Chayuan village because I admit the criticism to NGOs in next section is true. But we want to do the good NGO, not the bad one. So from the beginning, we always insist on the basic principle that local community member, the villager, the tea farmers, they should be the main body of the community-based project. NGO, us, is just an external promoter. So we introduce the resources, technology, and information to the villager, like a bridge connecting the closed villager with the outside world. We use the method of participatory rural appraisal. So finally, every decision was made by villagers. Every public activities was conducted by villagers. We are promoting community participation. That's the keystone of sustainability of the project, even after NGOs leave. NGO also promote villagers' self-organization, such as cooperative and other self-management groups. Finally, it's critical important for NGO to make a long-term commitment to the community, because each small step takes a lot of time. NGO should be persistent as well. So I'm using a photo of light seen in Chayuan to finish my talk. We aim to rebuild a civic, affluent, energetic, ecological, inclusive, and sustainable Chayuan village. If you want to support or participate in, no matter tea selling, ecotourism, technique support, volunteer service, anything, that will be very much welcomed and appreciated. Thank you very much for your listening.